In the previous lesson, we dug into site and page settings related to accessibility and SEO, but there's still plenty more to talk about. So in this lesson, we're looking at a bunch of other useful settings and how they let us add some additional functionality and polish before we take our sites live. Again, we took a look at some of the most important site settings in the previous lesson. So if you missed that, you might want to head there first. We're also going to dig into publishing a few lessons from now, so we'll save anything publishing related for that. But I'll start by clicking the settings icon on the toolbar. And here we are on the general tab of the site settings. We pretty much tackled this entire top area with the site title and language all the way down to accessibility in the previous lesson. And opting out of the HTML to Framer Chrome extension is something we talked about in an earlier lesson on importing from the web and Figma. The next new setting is preserve URL parameters like UTM source when navigating between pages. If you're not familiar with UTMs, they're just a little snippet of text that you add to a URL that helps track the effectiveness of marketing campaigns by identifying where the traffic came from. With this setting checked, that snippet of text will get passed along as visitors navigate from page to page within your site. With it unchecked, the UTM wouldn't get passed along after visitors navigate away from the first page that they landed on. Our next setting says hide button to edit pages in one click. When your site's published and you visit it as an editor, you'll see a little Framer button overlaid on the right. And it's a shortcut that lets you quickly jump in and edit the page you're looking at. Visitors won't see this button. It only shows up for collaborators who can edit the site. But if you find it distracting, you can use this setting to hide it altogether. Next, we have this whole section for site images we can upload, like a favicon, which is that tiny little 64 by 64 pixel icon that shows up next to a page title or a bookmark in a lot of web browsers. And Framer lets us upload separate icons for light mode and dark mode if we want to. But if you want to use the same image for both, you can just upload one and not the other one, and the image will be used for both. The social preview is a much larger thumbnail at 1200 by 630. This one's also known as an open graph or OG image, and it shows up when folks share a link on social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, or Slack. Then last, we have an Apple Touch icon that's 180 by 180. And it's used when someone on an Apple device saves a bookmark to a page of your site to their home screen. And Framer gives us a nice little preview of each one of these so we know exactly what we're going to end up with. In the next section, we have the ability to password protect our entire site, so only authorized individuals can access what we've published. If you're on a site plan that includes password protection, just click the little switch to enable it and either use the randomly generated password or click edit to set your own in the field below. Just be sure it's longer than 8 characters. After publishing, when a visitor lands on your site, they'll be prompted to enter the password in order to gain access to any of the content. To remove the password, just flip the switch off and publish again. It's great for keeping client work secure until everyone agrees it's time to go live. Next, we have automatic locale, which relates to a feature that we haven't covered yet called locales. We're going to have a dedicated course on localizing your site, but if you're already familiar with locales, this preference lets your site automatically redirect visitors to the locale that matches their browser settings, if a matching locale exists. Then next is Google Analytics, where you can paste your measurement ID if you've got one. But don't forget, Framer also has some pretty powerful analytics built right in. And I've already published a lesson at the end of this course that digs into it. You might be surprised how much you can do without any third-party tools. In the next section, as long as you're on a supported site plan, Framer also lets you integrate with certain third-party services by hosting something called well-known files on your site. This can enable features like Apple App Site Association for universal links, Apple Pay support, and Android verification. It's more advanced stuff, but doesn't hurt to know what it's for. And last but not least, for our general site settings, we have custom code that'll be added to every page of our site. And each field puts the code that you type or paste in a very specific place within the HTML, either at the start of the head tag, the end of the head tag, the start of the body tag, or the end of the body tag. Be careful with custom code though, because if you don't know what you're doing, the results could get unpredictable. And we may not be able to do as much to support you if things go wrong. The next tab of our site settings is for setting up and managing domains, which again, we're going to tackle a couple of lessons from now. And then we have redirects. If you're on a site plan that includes redirects, then you can use these to route traffic from an old URL to a new one. When you're moving an existing site over to Framer, these are super helpful because they make sure visitors land where we want them to, even if they visit a page that's moved or changed names. They also keep search engines happy since we prevent indexed URLs from throwing a page not found error the next time Google tries to crawl them. We've got a dedicated lesson on redirects on Framer Academy, but the gist of it is that we enter an old URL and then designate the new URL to redirect visitors to. Then the next tab of the site settings is forms, which gives us a small handful of items for campaign tracking, keeping an eye on form usage, and connecting your Google account so that form submissions can go directly to a Google Sheet. We've already got a dedicated course for forms on Framer Academy, so be sure to check that out for a deeper dive. The staging and versions tab is another one we're going to save for the upcoming lesson on publishing. And the last tab lets us browse and upgrade plans, which is exactly what we're going over in the next lesson. We'll spend some time going over what to consider so you always choose the right site plan for your project. When you select a specific page, you'll find the same sort of settings we've already gone over, but these ones are specific to the selected page rather than being site-wide. And there you have it. Between these last two lessons, you become familiar with what can be accomplished with site and page settings. And in the next two lessons, we'll get into picking a site plan, publishing, and hooking up your own custom domain name. I'll see you there.